I think one of the important breakthroughs that we're in the midst of right now is that it's not about believing about, it's about the experience of the sacred. And of course we experience primarily through the body. And many of the spiritual practices that we're in the midst of recovering, like the labyrinth discipline, for instance, are disciplines that are taking us back into the body. So whether it's through our own physical bodies or whether it's through the body of the earth, that is where we know the sacred, because that's where we're experiencing the sacred, rather than being told to believe certain things about the earth or about the other. And if anything, of course, what many of us were taught that ended up infecting our perception of the body is that the body was somehow, in its essential energies, was seen as opposed to God, and especially, of course, when physical energy came into the realm of sexual energy, then we were really encouraged to doubt what the source of sexual energy was, rather than seeing that this is getting very close to the heart of the sacredness of our being. I think part of the question we're being asked at this point in time is what is the new form of our Christian wisdom, or what is the new form of the Jesus wisdom? And one of the primary features of that, I believe, is that we are emphatically being invited back into relationship with the earth, and with a vision of the embodiment of spirit and the inseparableness of matter and spirit. Essentially what we're saying, whether in a spiritual direction context or whether in any context in which we are trying to bring our presence to the heart of the presence of the other, is that everything that is most essentially required is already there. It's already in the other.
Yes.
So that the role of the teacher, the role of the director, the role of the healer is not to bring something that is foreign to the other, but is to find ways of releasing what is already most deeply there. And we've been so burdened by a top-down hierarchical structure that we've inherited in so much of our Western Christian world, in which we've thought that truth is to be dispensed, or that healing energies are somehow primarily to be given rather than to be released. And certainly for me as a teacher in this tradition, it relieves one of this sort of impossible burden that I think we've been asked to carry in a lot of our Western Christian inheritance, thinking that it somehow depends on us dispensing it. And I like the distinction that someone like Aung San Suu Kyi, the Burmese leader for democracy, articulates when she says it's important to not inflate one's importance, so that what we have to offer in engagement is not dependent on us bestowing it. But she also makes the point that while we're not to exaggerate our importance, we're all to see that we are essential. And we're all essential because within us all is the divine presence.
There's such a goofy confusion in our day that we mistake the part for the whole. And I think it's centuries of what led to the whole sense of what it is to be an individual, all of which was good, but it got tipped too far. And as a consequence, becoming an individual began to be a kind of insular, atomistic, weird existence that wasn't connected. And it's one of the great gifts of the tradition, both in terms of those who have gone before and ways in which you and others are re-articulating it, to remind us that we are always parts of a vast, throbbing, interconnected whole.
Carl Jung was the one who helped me understand the root of the word sacrifice, and when he leads back into the Latin root of the word, which is sacrificare, which means to make whole, or to make holy. And what are the things that are needing to happen in our lives individually and in our families, in our communities, but also in our world and as a species? What are the things that are needing to happen in order to make whole again? That is, to bring back into relationship what has been torn apart. And on the very sort of immediate level of family life, what are the things that need to happen to bring us back into relationship with one another, so that the suffering of one member of the family is not limitedly his. It is ours. It belongs to the whole family. So what are the things that we are being called into in terms of action, as well as ways of seeing and feeling, that remake us again in ways that don't allow one part of the family to be separated from another part of the family? And the world, whether it's the world of mental illness or whether it's the world of physical disability, often we do this individualizing thing and say, well, that's his.
Yes.
And so the way of sacrifice is about bringing back into relationship. And I think very close to George MacLeod's vision was to allow the way of sacrifice to speak into the journey of a whole nation. And that is the struggle of the poor in the city, in the inner city of Glasgow, should not be in any sense viewed as just theirs to cope with. It belongs to the whole nation. So there was this radical call to come back into relationship between the rich and the poor of Scotland. And I think part of George MacLeod's vision also was to bring spirit and matter back into relationship, and to see that our spirituality needed to come back into relationship with the deepest sacred energies and rhythms of the earth. And that calls for the way of sacrifice. In order to come back into relationship with the other species of the earth, what are the things that we need to do to change the patterns of separation and this falseness of pretending that we as a human species can be well, and at the same time ignore the well-being of other Earth's species. So that the way of sacrifice is about the way of bringing back into relationship again what has been torn apart. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the sun of peace to you. And one of the things that I have been struck by in that prayer is that it is invoking the holy energies of the elements. There's earth, air, fire, and water in that prayer. And that's very typical of the Celtic tradition, that the Christ energy is not separate from earth energy, and forever they're being held together.